Political football is used in this show are fully inflated. I'm Charlie Sykes. Sunday Insight starts right now. Good morning and welcome to Sunday Insight. In the week that was, well, that's going to leave a mark. The Packers lose the NFC Championship game after giving up 15 points in 44 seconds. Yeah, I'm not over it yet. Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin sat on a report about opiate abuse at the Tomah VA for months. A whistleblower calls her failure to do anything a travesty. The president delivers his State of the Union address. The state legislature passes an amendment that would let Supreme Court justices pick their own Chief Justice instead of having the Chief Justice determined by seniority alone. The NFL finds footballs used by the Patriots in the title game had been deflated. Bill Belichick cheating? Say it ain't so. The Justice Department won't file charges against the officer involved in the shooting death of a teenager in Ferguson, Missouri. An American Sniper breaks box office records in Hollywood, but draws fire from some of the usual Hollywood suspects. But first, the answer is no. Governor Scott Walker rejects a proposal to build a giant new casino and entertainment center in Kenosha.
I have informed the federal government's Bureau of Indian Affairs that I am not approving the application for a casino in Kenosha by the Menominee tribal government. The reason for that is simple. It boils down to what I've said repeatedly was our biggest challenge over the last several months, and that is because of the compacts that were put in place by former Governor Jim Doyle. We believe that the state taxpayers would be exposed in the short term to about $100 million or more in terms of lost revenue, and potentially millions more far beyond that into the future.
Joining me on our panel this morning, defense attorney Dan Adams, former state representative Michelle Litchens, political strategist Linda Brewin, and the managing editor of RightWisconsin.com, Colin Roth. Were you surprised by the decision, and did you make the right decision, Michelle Litchens?
It's unfortunate. He probably made the right decision for the state budget. I think the governor wanted to say yes. He wanted to make this work, which is why it took so long for him to make this decision. I think it would have helped him for his presidential campaign, actually, if he could talk about growing jobs in the state of Wisconsin. But Jim Doyle signed this compact that was lasting 25 years, and he didn't just sign it with Potawatomi. St. Croix has the same statement, so does Lac du Flambeau and others, that if they were to lose any money with another casino going up in the state of Wisconsin, Wisconsin had to subsidize
Well, when it comes down to it, what was written into the compact, this very strange deal that not only would the Potawatomi be protected from competition, but they would be indemnified against any losses. The taxpayers might have had to pay them for gambling losses. Linda Brewin, did the governor make the right decision?
Well, I think it all depends on what the Potawatomi gave him in return, because I think the Menominee gave up about as much as you possibly could. And in fact, if you remember, last minute, the Menominee offered to issue bonds to help cover the losses. So for the governor, I think they went as far as they could possibly go. So I think either the governor was looking at this and saying, well, maybe they got another deal from the Potawatomi that we haven't heard yet about, or there's something else in here that we just don't understand.
Okay, now, Colin Roth, from a political point of view, I mean, here's a governor that has built his entire message about, Wisconsin is open for business, we're going to create jobs, and here you had virtually $1 billion investment, outside money coming in, the creation of thousands of jobs. It is awkward, isn't it, for Governor Scott Walker to turn down that kind of investment, that kind of employment opportunity?
I think it's very awkward. I mean, a lot of Democrats and some in the media are going to point to this, this petition or letter from Iowa Republicans telling him to reject it, but really, I don't think this was a really political decision. I think he would have loved to approve this. I think he would have loved to stand down there and talk about the jobs and the addition of investments. You don't think it's political? Okay. Well, it's political in some degree.
He's going to Iowa. You have influential social conservatives in Iowa saying do not expand gambling, and you don't see any connection.
Well, we can see everything through that lens, but from the other standpoint, I don't think it looked incredibly presidential to be waiting so long and be deliberating on this.
Okay, Dan Adams.
Scott Walker doing something for political reasons. Stop the presses. I think once in a great while you'll have a good public policy aligning with political self-interest. It's like a lunar eclipse, and that's what happened here. The casino in Kenosha would have been terrible. We don't need any more gaming in this state. It's not an economic boon in the long term. And if that letter from the Iowa conservatives prompted a quicker decision, I think we're all better off for it.
Okay, you say it's bad public policy. I guess, though, in terms of investment, you're talking about a major investment. You have the Hard Rock Cafe people coming in and the Hard Rock Casino people coming in, and it would have created thousands of jobs. And you may say that we don't need any more gaming, but the reality is there would have been a marketplace for it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this debate. So, what was the downside other than this budget problem? And the budget problem, is apparently real, but I guess I asked the question on Friday, what more could the Menominee have done in saying you're going to indemnify it? But ultimately, and I know that Governor Walker's going to get a lot of flack for this, but the compact signed by Jim Doyle was so unconscionable, and we were saddled with these commitments. Who thought it was a good idea? What other industry, what other realm of life are you told, yes, you get to basically make billions of dollars in money, and we will not allow anyone to compete against you. And if somebody competes against you, we're going to write you a check from the taxpayers? Well, that was an awful idea.
Gaming is the ultimate regulated industry, and it invites rentierism and people being parasitic on the body politic.
Okay, how badly is this going to hurt Governor Walker in southeastern Wisconsin? I mean, there was no question about it. There was a lot of political support. Democrats and Republicans in the Racine-Kenosha area virtually unanimous in support of this. So he's going to take a whack, isn't he?
He is definitely going to take a whack down in southeastern Wisconsin. And again, I think this would have helped him politically more if he would have approved this casino, because I think jobs gets you more votes than the social conservatives that were opposed to gambling.
Okay, I think that his task, though, is to make this case about what would have happened to the budget. And Linda Bruin, I think, made a good point here. We know what the Menominee were willing to do if this casino was approved. What we do not know, as of at least this taping, what will the Potawatomi do now that they basically got their way? I mean, the reality is, the reason we are having this decision is number one, the Jim Doyle compacts. Number two, the Potawatomi absolutely adamantly opposed to any sort of competition. And then number three, the fact that there is this risk to a state budget.
Absolutely, and we'll find that out. But here's a task for any reporter in this state. Somebody put a camera or a microphone in front of Jim Doyle.
What has your glass half full this week? What has your glass half empty? Let's go around the table. Dan Adams, you're first.
My glass is half full because UW-Madison Chancellor Rebecca Blank has joined a select group of scholars honored with the Moynihan Prize, an award named after my political hero, Senator Patrick Moynihan. The award celebrates vigorous research used to better public policy. My glass is half empty because, well, all of UW glasses seem to be full of booze. A 2013 survey shows 42% of UW-Madison students become high-risk drinkers after starting college, compared to 27% of students attending similar institution. Sober up, Badgers.
Michelle Hitchens.
My glass is half empty because all President Obama talked about during his State of the Union address was giving away other people's money. But it is half full because he had the lowest ratings in over 15 years.
Linda Bruin.
Well, another take. My glass is half full because 72% of Americans who watched President Obama's State of the Union address said they thought his domestic policies would move the country in the right direction. But my glass is half empty because most also approved of his terrorism policies. I don't. The president's anti-terrorism efforts have not been strong enough.
Colin Roth.
My glass is half empty because some Senate Republicans are getting a little squishy on right to work. But my glass is half full because all the Republican candidates running to succeed Glenn Grothman support worker freedom, and the debate over right to work looks like it could heat up in April.
Well, my glass is half full because journalists have doggedly pursued those allegations of wrongdoing by the New England Patriots. It's half empty because this week an NFL quarterback was actually asked tougher questions than the President of the United States has ever been subjected to. Next on Sunday Insight, Milwaukee aldermen approved the streetcar, but it is not moving forward yet. A majority of Milwaukee aldermen appeared to support the $124 million downtown streetcar, but a final vote is delayed until February 10th. And that gives opponents more time to collect the 31,000 signatures they say will force a binding referendum on the subject. Meanwhile, more fireworks. Some supporters of the trolley are urging a boycott of businesses that oppose the project. Milwaukee Democrat State Representative Josh Zepnick lashed out at one local businessman on Facebook. After restaurant owner Dave Sobelman wrote an article in the Business Journal criticizing the trolley, Zepnick wrote, Sobelman really pissed me off on this one. Talk about no civic pride for a place that profits off my city. Good food, but you go there, it's crowded, staff is snotty/cranky all the frickin' time, parking sucks and it's not safe at night. And then this apparent threat. Hope City reconsiders his sidewalk seating permit for this summer. Wahaha. Well, after initially refusing to back off, Zepnik later issued a statement apologizing. Your thoughts, Dan Adams?
I think he should resign. I think Josh Zepnik is
He
not...
said he was just joking, no big deal.
No, you're a public official. His thing was, oh, well, I was making a personal statement. No, you have influence over the public debate, and to say the government should use its coercive power to basically bang a local entrepreneur for exercising their First Amendment rights is absolutely despicable. He does not belong in public office any longer.
You know, for the record, I had to say that Dave Sobelman told me that Mayor Tom Barrett called him personally afterwards to say that how inappropriate that was and to assure him that his permits were safe. But I guess the tactics and some of the language that we are seeing from the supporters of the streetcar certainly doesn't indicate a movement that feels that it's on the upswing.
Yeah, it certainly doesn't reflect confidence. I think my favorite just cringeworthy statement in the Zepnik thing was profit off my city. Yeah, right. You know, this parasitic language about, you know, a business in this city. Yeah. But yeah, I think the streetcar proponents are starting to sweat a little bit. They don't seem very confident, and I think, you know, just the snowball effect of this petition drive is starting to foster some debate in this city.
Who has the momentum right now, Linda?
Well, I still, as you all know, I do not support it, but I actually think the momentum still right now is with the pro, because the vote was 10-5. Right. Yes, there was a vote of 7 to delay.
Not 9-6.
Yeah, right. But you know, these petitioners, they need to get roughly or a little under 2,000 signatures a day. You know, February 10th is not that far off. Yeah. So you know, that's a big upward battle. So I think some of those 7 were people that were hoping that the petition would fail and then they could just vote.
Michelle Hitchens.
Well, I think obviously the people who are out there looking for the petitions and they're opposing the streetcar, I think that they are actually gaining some steam. When the newspapers headlines are talking about the Koch brothers, I mean, really? That's how they're trying to attack the opponents of this streetcar?
I thought that was absolutely fascinating, because this really is a David and Goliath. When you think about it, all the power elite in downtown Milwaukee are solidly behind this streetcar. You have this ragtag grassroots group. But what's the headline in the dead tree? The Koch brothers, because there is one staffer working part-time on this. You may not want to hear it, but going to tell you. Anyway, let's hand out some unsolicited advice today. Dan Adams, you're first.
To local politicians, try to emulate Milwaukee Alderman Michael Murphy, seemingly the only adult in the room when it comes to the streetcar debate. His statements this week showed that even in today's politics, you can disagree without being disagreeable. Kudos.
Michelle Hitchens.
So if Charlie Sykes quotes you on the radio and pokes fun at you, don't call in. Republican or Democrat, it's never turned out for anyone, especially Representative Josh Zepnik.
It was fun. Linda Bruin.
The Disneyland measles outbreak reminds us how important it is to get fully vaccinated for measles, which can blind or even kill its victims. There is no medical evidence that the vaccine is unsafe, so if you haven't been vaccinated, get a dose. And if you were only vaccinated once, as many of us were, most of us should get a second dose.
Colin Roth.
My advice is for opponents of the streetcar living in Milwaukee to get involved and find out how they can sign the petition, get their friends to sign, and perhaps even devote some time to circulating the petitions.
Well, my advice is to all of you elected officials out there, when you make a horse's rear end of yourself on social media, like on Facebook, people are going to notice because it's on the internet. And yeah, Josh Zepnik, I'm talking to you. Next on Sunday Insight, what did Senator Tammy Baldwin know about drug abuse at the Tomah VA? When did she know it, and what did she do about it? A travesty. That's how one whistleblower at the Tomah VA described the failure of Senator Tammy Baldwin to act on a bombshell Inspector General report on opioid prescriptions at the Tomah VA. Last week, USA Today reported that Baldwin's office received an inspection report last summer detailing high amounts of the opiates prescribed at the Veterans Medical Center there. But there's no indication that her office took action on the findings until last week. A whistleblower named Ryan Honnell repeatedly asked Baldwin to take action, but the report said that Baldwin remains silent. Honnell calls her failure to act a travesty. Late last week, Senator Baldwin called for hearings, but Colin Roth, what happened here?
What happened here was that Senator Baldwin and her staff presumably were aware that of this IG report, this Inspector General's report of opiate abuse at the VA in Tomah. They got this report in August and sat on it. And Ryan Honnold was pleading, begging with this staff to take action, and they even told Honnold to not go to the press about
this. Is this incompetence, or is it something else, or is it political?
You know, this really, I would normally say incompetence, but this looked political, and for a couple reasons. One of the staffers involved is kind of this fringe lefty and part of this anti-war group, but also just the fact that they told this whistleblower to not go to the press is stunning and shameful.
Okay, Linda Brown.
Well, I think it's political for a different reason. Tammy Baldwin is a smart, involved, energized politician, and if there was a scandal going on in an area that she represents and she does nothing on it, I think she's got a reason for it, and it's not a good one. I think what she did was inexcusable. So the only thing I can come up with is a political one, not wanting to embarrass the federal government right before an election, yada yada yada. There's lots of things that you could come up for, but none of them. They're all excuses.
Generally, when a politician gets, a smoking gun of a scandal, if it matches their agenda or the political ideological narrative they're pushing, they're going to be all over that
Right, and this
thing.
would be right up her alley. I mean, I don't get this.
But obviously not. Obviously not. Because if her office actually thought about veterans or held them in high esteem, the person who would have even, noticed the study at first would have stood up and said, "Oh my gosh, can you imagine this is out there?" And they would have done something and acted on it immediately. So this kind of shows that her office does not hold veterans in high regard.
Well, also, I mean, the other interpretation, which is not much more flattering, is what Lynn is suggesting, is that you're in the middle of an election campaign. This was very embarrassing to the Obama administration, to the Democrats in office. It was embarrassing to the advocates of government-run health care, and she just wanted to slow walk it.
No way.
Okay.
There is no elected official that cares about their constituents more than Tammy Baldwin. She is excellent. She really has her ear to the ground, and what is
Except
surprising.
on this.
Exactly, and I think there was some shortfall in her office with her constituent services people. These are, generally entry-level political workers with their first or second job in politics, and somebody dropped the ball repeatedly.
But not repeatedly, Dan. I could buy that for one or two, but repeatedly?
But you think that Tammy Baldwin read this and said, "I'm going to bury this for the election"?
She had that report.
I can see that.
Exactly.
So basically, Tammy Baldwin turns out to be the Brandon Bostick of Wisconsin politics. I did. So what is it you don't get? Let's go around the table. Dan Adams, you're first.
Why Scott Walker is prioritizing drug testing for those who receive public assistance. Drug testing isn't even mentioned by the Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce in their legislative priorities for workforce development. Could our governor be pandering?
Michelle Litchens.
Well, Charlie, what I don't get is why the Journal-Sentinel and State Journal find the Koch brothers more newsworthy than veteran abuse and neglect in the state of Wisconsin.
Linda Bruin.
When Jay Leno was asked about the sexual assault allegations against Bill Cosby, he said, "I don't know why it's so hard to believe women. You go to Saudi Arabia and you need 2 women to testify against a man. Here, you need 25. I agree.
Colin Roth.
Wisconsin State Journal devoted just a few sentences from the AP to Tammy Baldwin's inaction on the Tomah VA scandal. The Cap Times and the Isthmus have completely ignored it. What I don't get is how a U.S. Senator from Madison gets such kid glove treatment. Then again, maybe I do get it.
Well, what I don't get is how there could be terror cells in Europe, anarchy in Yemen, chaos across parts of Afghanistan and Iraq, and yet the President of the United States can proclaim that we've turned the page on national security and global terrorism. Was it wishful thinking or a dangerous disconnect? Next on Sunday Insight, our panel picks the winners and losers of the week. But first, here's your morning news update. It's time for our panel to pick the winners and losers of the week. Dan Adams, you're first.
My winner, our President Barack Obama, for his masterful State of the Union speech. His optimism was Reagan-esque, which resonates with Americans. Just think of the contrast between now and the dark days of the financial crisis in 2008. My losers, the pessimists and cynics prominent in American politics, exemplified this week by the GOP members of Congress who refused to acknowledge the good news that our economy is, in fact, getting better.
Michelle Litchens.
My winner is Speaker John Boehner. Bringing Prime Minister Netanyahu to Congress shows you are a co-equal branch of government and you are not going to wait for the president to get the work done. My loser is Governor Jim Doyle. It was the compact he negotiated with the tribes that caused Wisconsin to lose the Kenosha Casino. That compact stands for 25 years.
Linda Bruin.
My winners are the residents of West Africa. On Thursday, U.S. health officials announced that large-scale testing of Ebola vaccines and treatment drugs will soon begin, and the World Health Organization announced that Ebola's spread is slowing. My loser is Governor Walker for proposing to selectively drug test one group of Wisconsin residents who receive government funds, our poor. If receiving government funds is a standard, why not test everyone who receives government money, including Social Security recipients, small business owners, college students, farmers, home repair loan recipients, daycare workers, etc., etc.
Colin Roth.
There's seemingly no bigger winner this week than the Potawatomi tribe after Governor Walker rejected the Kenosha Casino proposal. My loser this week is also Governor Jim Doyle, who gave away the store with terrible compact deals that at the end of the day killed the Kenosha Casino project.
Well, my winner of the week, the power elite in this town is intent on ramming through a $124 million trolley plan. But my winners are the citizen activists who are pushing a grassroots effort to stop one of the biggest boondoggles this city has ever seen. This is what democracy looks like. Losers, the bullies who are attacking, boycotting, and threatening local businesses who dare to oppose that streetcar. Those are not the tactics of a movement that's confident in the power of its ideas and arguments. Thanks for joining us and joining me for my radio show Monday morning. It's on News Radio 620 WTMJ from 8:30 until noon. So what do we do on a Sunday afternoon when there's no football? I mean, what do we do? There's no game, there's nothing.